Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today is a second part of a two-part series on creating a Pokemon Pokeball. In the first part of the series, I taught you how to create the top, bottom, and center part of the Pokemon Pokeball. Today, I'm going to finish that up by showing you how to create the center buttons and also put a shine on the Pokeball. So, a couple of assumptions before we begin. First and foremost, I am using Photoshop CC 2015. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. And also, I am using Windows. If you're using a Mac, then when I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on your keyboard, that means hit the Option key on a Mac keyboard. So without further ado, let's get into the second part of creating a Pokemon Pokeball. So here we have what we have already made with our Pokemon Pokeball tutorial. So let's go to the top layer here, named Top, and let's create a brand new layer on top of it. So let's hit CTRL+ALT+Shift+N on our keyboard to bring up a brand new layer. Double click on it, and then let's name it Outer Button. Then once we have that named, we're going to go up here to the elliptical marquee, which you can get to by clicking and holding on your marquee and choosing elliptical marquee, or by hitting M on your keyboard and then Shift M to cycle between rectangular and elliptical. Once you have the elliptical marquee selected, you want to have the first button up here, then feather of 0, anti-alias is checked, and a fixed size. We want it to be 5500 pixels by 5500 pixels. Then we can click anywhere on our document to create our 550 radius circle, and then move it to the center of our document. So now we have our center outer button. We're then going to hit Alt+Backspace to fill it with whatever color we happen to have, then hit Control+D to deselect. Now I said fill it with whatever color that you have. You can hit Alt+Backspace, Control+Backspace, or just use the paint bucket tool. It doesn't make a difference. We'll be changing the color by using layer styles. So let's go over here to our layer styles and give this some layer style love. Let's go to Bevel and Emboss. That will be the first thing that we're going to be doing. And the first style is going to be an inner bevel. We're going to make sure that it is on Chisel hard. Depth is going to be 100. It's going to be in the direction of up. The size is going to be 8, and soften is going to be 0. We're then going to go down here to angle, make sure that use global light is turned off, and we're going to change it to a 45 over 30 degree angle. So 45 on top, 30 degrees on the bottom. The gloss contour is going to be linear, so make sure that it is the straight line. Anti-Aliased is going to be unchecked. Highlight mode is going to be screen, and the color that we're using is going to be pure white up here. So that's all Fs for pure white. Opacity is going to be 100%. We're then going to go down to shadow mode. We're going to make sure that that is multiply. We're going to change the color to pure black, all zeros, and then we're going to change its opacity to 60%. 60%. And then we're going to go over here to color overlay. Where are you? Color overlay. And we're going to change the color overlay color. We're going to make this normal. We're going to make the opacity 100%. And we're going to change the color overlay to E4, 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 E4. So it's a nice light gray. We're going to hit OK. Then we're going to go down here to drop shadow. We're going to get rid of this one. We don't need that. We're going to create our own. So here we are at drop shadow. Turn that on. And we're going to make 2 of them. So the first one is going to be a blend mode of multiply. Color is going to be pure black, which is zeros. We're going to make the opacity 50%. Angle is going to be at 45 degrees. Global light, use global light is going to be unchecked so that we can get to our 45 degrees. Distance is going to be 15. Spread 0, size 0. And then we're going to do contour is going to be linear. We're going to make sure anti-alias is checked. Noise is going to be 0, and layer knocks out drop shadow is going to be checked. Then we're going to click on the little plus icon here to create a new drop shadow. Select the bottommost drop shadow. We're going to make a couple of minor changes to this. We're going to leave this at multiply. Color is going to stay as black. We're going to change the opacity is actually going to stay the same at 50%. The angle will be 45 degrees. Use global light is unchecked. Distance, though, is going to be 24. Spread is going to be 0, and size is also going to be 24. We're then going to leave everything else the same as it was already. We're going to hit OK, and we now have our outer button finished. And now we're going to create a brand new layer by hitting CTRL+ALT+Shift+N on our keyboard to create a new layer. Double click on the name, and we're going to name this Inner Button. And we're going to give this some layer style love once we create the circle. So let's go back to our elliptical marquee. Make sure that we have everything the same except for the size. We're going to change it from 5500 to only 400. So it'll be 400 by 400, and then we're going to click anywhere to create our circle. Then we're going to click and drag that to the center of our document. We will then fill that with white. We want to fill this with white. But actually, it doesn't make a difference because we can change that using layer style. So I'll just fill it with white, and then Control-D to deselect, and then we can get to work on giving it some layer style love. So this will also need a Bevel Emboss, and this is actually going to be an emboss. So we're going to use emboss. We're going to make it smooth. The depth will stay at 100%. Direction will stay as up. The size, however, is going to be 29, and the soften is actually going to be 5. Then we're going to change, we're going to make sure that use global light is unchecked, which it should be, and we're going to change the angle to 50 degrees over 30 degrees. So 50 on top, 30 degrees on the bottom. And then we're going to go down to highlight mode, which is going to be screen. The color, however, is going to be, let's see, ffffff. To give it a little pinkish color in it, and we're going to bring its opacity down to only 50%. Then down here under shadow mode, we're going to leave that at multiply, and we're going to change its color to a richer gray, a lighter than black gray, which is going to be 464646. Hit OK, and it's going to also be at 50% opacity. And then we're going to go to contour here, and we're going to change that to Gaussian, which is where it is right now. Let me just see here. Bevel and Emboss, this should actually be under Gaussian over here. So let's change that to Gaussian. How did I skip that? I don't know, but I did. So let's go back here to contour, and Anti-Aliased is unchecked, and range is going to be 100. So then we're going to go over here to color overlay, and like I said, we're going to change this to just being pure white, so it doesn't really matter what color you made the circle to begin with, because we're changing it under color overlay. You can leave it as white, you can create it in black, it doesn't make a difference. We're going to change it using this color overlay. Then we're going to go down here to outer glow, and we're going to give this a slight outer glow. So we're going to make the blend mode normal. We're going to make the opacity at 60%. Noise is going to be at 0%. Color is going to be black, which is all zeros. Then we're going to go down here. We're going to make it softer. Spread is going to be 7. Size is going to be 24. The contour on this is definitely linear. Anti-Aliased is going to be checked. We're going to make the range 50%, and jitter is going to be 0. And that's all that we need for that. And as you can see, we now have our buttons in the center of our Pokemon Pokeball. Now let's turn that, close the effects by clicking on the little arrow. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a glass sphere that we're going to put on top of this to make it look as if it is shiny on the outside. Now, the way that you do this, there are dozens of different ways of doing a glass sphere and putting it on here. I'm going to show you one way. I'm sure that there are others. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this and create an action so that should you need to make a glass sphere for any future artwork that you're going to be making, you can always just hit the action button to create the glass sphere, and you don't have to go through all of these steps all over again, which I think is a nice little shortcut that is included in Photoshop that a lot of other programs don't have. Now, the action palette you can get to by going to Window and then Actions over here, hitting Alt F9 and bringing it up, or it's usually found right over here on the right-hand side under Actions. And here are Actions. Okay, it comes with default actions. I've made some save actions for myself, and you can make as many as you'd like. Okay, so we're going to start by showing you how to create the action, then we'll go through creating the glass sphere, then I'll show you how to name and save your action. So let's get started with that. The first thing that you want to do is you want to go down here to the little icon here that says Create New Action. You're going to want to click on that, and we're going to name this Spherize with Light Reflection. Now you can name it anything you want, glass sphere, whatever you want, but I'm going to call it Spherize with Light Reflection. Actually, you know what? Let's just name it, glass sphere. That's easier. All right, I'm going to save it in my default actions. You can create a new set. You can give it a function key. You can change its color so you can find it later easily, you know, make it red or green or whatever. I'm just going to leave it at none because I'm just showing you what you can do. Then you're going to hit record. Okay? Then we're going to create a brand new layer above what we have here by hitting CTRL+ALT+Shift+N. See, and it's already recording everything that we do. So from this point forward, everything you do, it will record, and then when you hit play, it will play all of those actions all over again so that you don't have to do it every time. Then we're going to want to fill this with black. So we're going to go to Edit, Fill, and we're going to fill it with black, mode normal, opacity 100%, preserve transparency is unchecked. Hit OK, and it is now filled with black. Then we're going to go to Filter, Render, Lens Flare, and you get this dialog box. Unfortunately, and I wish that they would fix this in Photoshop, unfortunately the preview window here, like many of the preview windows, is very, very small. So working in it is very difficult. But after using it for a while, you will figure out, you know, an approximation of what it is that you're looking for. Now, the lens flare that we're looking for here is a brightness of 115% to make it very bright. And the lens type that we want is the 50 to 300 millimeter zoom, which is already checked. Now, you can try other ones, and they all have their own special effects, but for our purposes, this is the one that we want to make the outside of our Pokemon Pokeball look like it's got some shine to it. Now, the way to make this work is you want to make sure that that this lens flare originates somewhere up here. Okay, now you could go over here, you could go over here. It doesn't really matter, except that going over here, I think, spreads this out a little bit too much for our circle, for our Pokeball. So we want to try and make it in the center, like this, and keep it roughly about halfway between the middle point and the top of the preview window, and as close to a straight line as you can. Once you have that, let's hit OK, and that will give us our lens flare. Hey, it was pretty close to center. It's very hard to do in that small window. So now that we have that, we're going to go to Filter, Distort, Polar Coordinates. And we're going to make sure that this is set for polar to rectangular. So that, polar to rectangular. And then we're going to hit OK. And that's going to look pretty weird. Okay, but this will work for us in just a moment. Then we're going to go to Image, Image Rotation, and we're going to Flip Vertical. Flip Canvas Vertical. And that will flip the canvas. Then we're going to go back to Filter, Distort, and Polar Coordinates. But we're going to select Rectangular to Polar. And we're going to hit OK. And that gives us our lens flare. Then we're going to go up here to Image. And we're going to want to flip our image again. So we're going to go to Image Rotation, Flip Canvas Vertical, because we want our Pokeball to look like a Pokeball with red on top and white on the bottom. Then we're going to select an elliptical marquee. We're going to make it a fixed size. We're going to make the width 2420 and the height 2420. And then we're going to click anywhere on our document to create our circle. And then we're going to drag it to the center so that it snaps to the center of our document. And then we are going to hit Control-C to copy that, Control-V to paste it on a brand new layer. Then we are going to go to this layer and we're going to name this glass sphere. And then we're going to take the layer 1 that we have here and we're going to delete it. Then we are going to stop recording by hitting stop recording. The last thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to our actions palette up here. Actions palette. And where it says lens flare right here, it should be the third thing that you have recorded under glass sphere. We're going to go over here to the left-hand side and click once to bring up this little box. And what that does is whenever we play this action now, when we get to the lens flare part of the action, it will tell us, what do you want to do? It will ask us, it will come up with a little pop-up and you'll be able to then see the preview of the lens flare, and then you can move the lens flare around and you can choose a different lens. So instead of using the 30 to 500 millimeter zoom, you could change it to the 50 millimeter prime or to the cinematic one. You get to make your own choice at that point. And then it will continue, once you hit OK, it will then continue with the rest of this and finish off your glass sphere so that you can use it later. Now you click on the little arrow here and there's glass sphere right there. So then if we wanted to play that, all you have to do is select it and then hit the little play button. Let me go to the top layer so that we can see what happens. Hit play, and as you can see, the lens flare dialog box popped up, so I can change this to whatever I want. So in this case, let's change it there and let's use the 35 millimeter prime. Let's hit OK, and it will do all the other work for me. And now I've got 2 lens flares, 1 and 2. See, I didn't have to do anything else special myself. So that is the power of actions, and it took less than 5 seconds to get the whole thing done, including working with the dialog box. So now that we're done with creating that action for our glass sphere, and let me get rid of the extra glass sphere that we have, we now have our glass sphere for our look. So let us bring back our Pokeball. You can see it there. It's still there. I haven't lost anything. But we want to use the glass sphere on top. So we want to set our foreground and background back to black and white just to be sure that that's there. Let's change the layer mode of our glass sphere to screen. So let's change this to screen. And that will show you that we can see the Pokeball through it, and it gives us reflections on the Pokeball. So let's transform the glass sphere by hitting Control-T, and we want to turn it around its center point, which is right in the center. We want to turn it so that the shiny part is up here in the upper right-hand side. So let's just turn it by grabbing it and turning and getting this up to the upper right-hand side. And you know, this is the power of actions. I'm not liking how that looks. So let's hit Escape, and let's throw away this glass sphere. And let's create a brand new glass sphere, because that one wasn't looking so good. So I had it too high up on our preview. It needed to be slightly lower. So let's go back to our Actions palette, and let's click on Glass Sphere, and let's hit play. And now let's take our glass sphere look, and let's bring it down more towards the center. So let's keep it more towards the bottom portion of the top part. So if this is our center line, let's keep this more towards the middle and the bottom. Right about there sounds good. Let's hit OK. It'll do all the work for us. And we now have our glass sphere. And see, now it's much closer to the top, which is perfect. So let's close the Actions palette. And now let's change this from normal to screen. And then let's Control-T to transform and then turn it so that our shine is in the upper right-hand side. And as you can see, we now have a very nice looking shine. Hit Enter on your keyboard, and you've got a nice looking shine on your Pokemon Pokeball. But it doesn't look exactly right, because if you look over here in the sides, it's over the inside part of our Pokeball, which is not what we want. So we're going to have to clean that up. So before we do that, let's make the shine look a little bit better than it does, because it kind of looks very fake and placed on top of an image here. So let's go to glass sphere and let's duplicate it. Okay, so now we have a duplicate, and let's change these this one to glass sphere 2. Okay, just so that we can keep track of it. All right, and let's go to layer mode. Let's change this to lighten. Lighten is going to make it a little less intense, as you can see. It automatically changes it from what it was to a far less intense shine. And now what we're going to do is going to make a layer mask for the glass sphere 2. And we're going to do the same thing for glass sphere, so that the glass sphere won't be outside of our top and bottom looks. So we want to select the top, the layer mask of the top, and we want to select that. So now we have a selection of just the top portion of the image, okay? Because we don't want this reflection, this glass sphere 2, to be on the bottom, because that will make it too intense. So we're going to take the glass sphere 2, and we're going to turn that into a layer mask by clicking here. And now we have a layer mask of just the top. Okay, now you don't see a difference here, which is understandable, but when I go here to glass sphere, what we're going to do is we're going to change this to only 50%. Okay, so let's change this to opacity of 50%. And now we have a much nicer looking shine on our Pokeball. Okay, but we still have that problem where if you look in here real close, if you look in here real close, you can still see that the glass spheres are outside of the Pokeball, which we don't want. Especially when you put it on a non-black background, that will look very bad. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our glass sphere mask, and we're going to go to our rectangular marquee, and we are going to select that. We're going to make it a fixed size, and we're going to make it a width of 55 and a height of 160. Then we're going to click anywhere to bring that up, and we're going to drag that to the center so it snaps to the center like that, and we're going to bring it all the way to the right. And then we're going to make sure that we are on our mask for glass sphere 2, and then we're going to fill that with black by hitting ALT+Backspace. Control+Backspace. And then we're going to drag that all the way to the left-hand side, keeping it on the center line. And then we're going to do the same thing. And that will get rid of some of it. Now we've got to do the same thing for glass sphere itself. So we're going to create a new layer mask on this. We're going to fill that with white, okay, so that we can see it. And then we're going to create this box again by clicking anywhere and bringing that over to the right, and then hitting Control+Backspace, and then dragging it over to the left-hand side, Control+Backspace. And now, if I deselect and zoom in, you'll see that there's no longer any outside stuff. It's all in our Pokeball, no longer outside, ruining the illusion that it's 3D. And the last thing that we have to do is we're going to, well, let me turn off our, whoops, silly me, wrong button. Let me turn off the guides so we don't need to see them anymore, and we now have our Pokemon Pokeball. But what we want to do is we want to be able to use this in other artwork. So the best way to do that is one that I've shown you before, is to turn this into a smart object. That way, when you scale it from small to big and everything, your layer styles and everything else will stay the same and not scale with it. What I mean is it will scale with it, so that if you have a 1 pixel outline, it will stay 1 pixel even when it gets small. Whereas if it's all separate objects, when you make something smaller, that 1 pixel will look much bigger compared to the rest of the object. So let me click on the topmost layer. Then we're going to click all the way down here on the bottommost layer, not the background. We don't want that. Then you right-click, And you're going to go up here to convert to smart object. Convert it to a smart object, and let's name this Pokeball. And you now have a Pokeball that you can resize to any size you want. You can rotate it, you can bring it into other artwork, and will always look like a great Pokeball. And that's the end of Pokeball. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe, because I'll be putting up a new tutorial every Tuesday. This is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.